All right, good evening, everyone. Okay, we'll start for today's session. Give me a while to mute off my phone. Good. Okay, we'll get started. Okay, so again, welcome back for those of you who have been following us for the past few weeks. Okay, I think you should be familiar by now what we do. For those of you who are first time joining us, okay, basically we just spend a good 20 minutes to 30 minutes at the start to share with you some of the opportunities, some of my personal analysis for the week. Okay, and then after that, we'll open up the remaining time for Q&A. So you have this opportunity to actually ask questions with regards to like trading and investing, and if you have any specific instrument that you'd like me to do an analysis, share my opinion. Okay, that's where you have this chance to do that as well. Okay, so let's get started for today. So if you take a look at the events calendar, you do realize that today we do have some bank holidays. Okay, but Monday, as usual, is usually quiet. Okay, this week, of course, I would say the highlight would really be on the pound and the US side. Okay, so we do have the RBA rate statement tomorrow. However, I don't think it will be a major, huge event that's gonna move the market a lot. I don't think that's likely gonna happen. But of course, having said that, it's still important that you do need to keep track of it. If let's say you are trading the Aussie currencies, you need to be aware what is the future forward guidance from RBA. Okay, so that's something that's still important. The Bank of England (BOE), which is coming in on Thursday, will be more important, I would say, because at this current moment here, two banks that are potentially gonna start their um, hiking rates, right, or I would say tapering process, would likely be BOE and the Fed. Hey, these two banks, in terms of like the seven developed countries, right, seven major countries, England, Bank of England, and the Federal Reserve are the two banks that likely gonna start to see tapering sooner than the rest. Okay, so definitely you want to keep track on the what's gonna happen on Thursday. Okay, that would give you much clue as to whether the BOE, right, would they give you or give us, I would say, a defined or more specific timeline as to when they're gonna do tapering, when are they gonna start um, raising interest rate. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Then of course Friday, the first Friday of the month, we do have NFP, okay, coming in. So that's gonna be important as well because this is actually the number one is what we call a tier one data, very very important. Number two is of course it's the very first of like important data that's coming out after the previous FOMC, right? So definitely this data is going to be important because the Fed is typically continuing to play down inflation and say that employment is not that nice and therefore will not do tapering soon. And of course the interest rate they're looking we need to hike it in 2023. Okay, but this Friday data would be important because if let's say every data that is coming in is super good, okay, let's say average hourly earning it came in like 0.5, unemployment rate dropped to 5.6, and then there are, let's say, NFP new jobs created is, let's say, 900,000 and above, then there will be more pressure coming in for the Fed to start thinking about a more specific tapering date. Okay, and that is where it will affect the entire market, right? Not only on the US dollar, not only on the FX, but basically the US dollar is the global reserve currency right now. So if you're trading gold, silver, commodities, you're looking at the stock equities market, the dollar moves it. Okay, so definitely very very crucial over here. Okay, of course I won't know exactly what's gonna come out, but do take note of it. Okay, because if let's say it's really surprising to the upside, all the data are showing that the US economy is really picking up very hot. That would pressure the Fed to really start talking about increasing interest rate and tapering, and that would send the equities market lower, and we'll see the dollar strengthen in the short term. Okay, so that's the events that you probably want to take note of for the week. Okay, So let's take a look at some of the technical charts over here. Okay, so for me, it's important to understand what's going to happen for the big picture because that provide you, we call the background information. You know, when you're trading, you know, okay, these are potential catalysts coming in for the week. Okay, so do take note of it. So for example, right, if we are looking at the dollar, the major pairs, then you know, we know that there's NFP coming in on Friday, which means that likely from now until Friday, the dollar is probably going to be just in a range bound environment because traders and investors are probably going to wait until the NFP is out and then only being more active in trading. Okay, so that gives you some kind of like background, backdrop information that is crucial when you're analyzing some of these markets here. Okay, so for me on the technical side of things, dollar index DXY. Okay, last week we have actually shared that we are expecting, you know, dollar to weaken for the short term. Okay, so yet last week we did see that. Coming into this week here, I do expect this, you know, at least to continue towards 91.5, which is still to the downside. But there's a good chance that we might see kind of like a consolidation all the way until NFP, and you know, we might then see maybe NFP send the dollar weaker as well, right? If let's say the data coming in is really bad, and that's exactly what the Fed has been always pushing, right? And say that employment is not that nice now, inflation is transitory, and if let's say the data really come out like that, then we might see the dollar continue to sell off. Okay, so my forecast over here is that if let's say from now until just before NFP, you see some kind of like a consolidation, a correction pattern on the chart that looks like that, okay, there is a good chance that we'll see the dollar weakening back down. Okay, of course, a lot of factors can affect it, but just purely based on a technical point of view, if you see this kind of setup by Friday, then I think it will be a very clear and solid opportunity to look for the sell side on the dollar. Okay, of course, then you can couple it with the release of NFP to kind of do a little bit of news trading, you know, right on the catalyst and the volatility when that data is being released. Okay, so you need to, of course, as I always say, right, every week, this sharing session is really to help you in that process of trading. But at the end of the day, you do need to have your own strategy and execution method. Okay, so that's important in trading as well, right? We can't do everything for you, but in this sessions like that, hopefully to bring your attention to some of these interesting opportunities that you want to monitor. Okay, so that's my view on dollar. Okay, so that would naturally affect the major pairs. If let's say you're looking at some of the like euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, okay, definitely that would be a major impact on that. If you're looking at equities market, then you know, if let's say we're expecting the dollar to weaken and the data come in is not that good, okay, which suggests that the Fed does not need to worry too much about tapering, then of course equities market, at least from the medium to I would say next year, okay, very good chance it will continue to break all-time high as we progress forward. Okay, so that's my view on the DXY. Now, over here, perhaps one pair you want to keep an eye on is Aussie dollar. Okay, of all the major pairs, I think Aussie dollar is one of the clearer setup for the week. Okay, at least for now, right? Things can change as we progress towards the later part of the week, but for now, Aussie dollar looks the cleanest because on the 4-hour time frame, we do see this setup, right? A very strong push to the downside, and we see corrective pattern. Okay, so of course, understand again that we do have NFP, so likely from now until Friday is probably just going to be in this consolidation. Okay, I'm not going to be surprised if you know the Aussie dollar actually came back up towards this high here before that drop. Maybe NFP will cause it. Okay, hard to say. Okay, but for now, the chart is suggesting that the downside seems to be of a higher probability. Okay, and for Aussie dollar to drop, there are mainly two catalysts for the week. Okay, one is tomorrow we do have the RBA rate statement, and Friday we have the dollar. Okay, so you need to if you're looking at Aussie dollar, then of course these two events for this week is gonna be very crucial for you. Okay, So for me, okay, as long as we're seeing this setup, this pattern here, for me, the downside is of a higher probability. Okay. So if you're looking at this here, there are multiple levels that you want to keep an eye on. I think the first key zone here you want to probably track is okay, the first key zone is 0.7410. Okay, around this high here, you might get a decent short opportunity if price were to retrace back to its 7410. And then the lower level here as a potential key zone. When I mean key zone here means there are good chance price will probably react around that level. Okay, is 7290. Okay, so the idea is, let's say if you have a shorting opportunity somewhere here, you manage to take a sell trade and price were to come back down to its 7290. You might want to monitor it closely, maybe take some partial profits for a sell trade, because from here it can then bounce back, or reverse to the upside. So that's what I mean by key levels. Okay, or let's say this just forms kind of like consolidation, and let's say tomorrow RBA send this lower towards 72.90. Okay, before NFP, RBA send the Aussie dollar lower first. Then you also want to keep an eye on it, because if let's say this forms a V shape, then of course it's likely this will continue to the upside. Maybe from a consolidation and an NFP send this up. Okay. Again, there are few scenarios that we can forecast from here. Okay. Again, you need to then follow through closer towards NFP when things develop. Maybe that would give you a much clearer idea. Okay, but for now, primary forecast is that this would likely come back down. Okay, either is it gonna be here because RBA can send it down, or the next area is you look out for 7410. Okay, so that's what I'm looking out for in terms of Aussie dollar. Other than that, in terms of currency pairs, some of the yen pairs are giving us a pretty decent setup. Okay, I would say like Kiwi yen and Cat yen is pretty interesting for you to keep an eye on. First up, Kiwi yen over here on the daily scale, you can see the previous daily low was actually tested and rejected. Okay, and we do see this move down very, very slow, right? Okay, so again, every time we see a pattern like that, there's a good chance this will actually rebound back to the upside, where you get this double bottom formation, very slow move to the downside. Therefore, the direction or higher probability direction you want to focus is to the upside. Okay. So in terms of target here, you want to then focus somewhere around like 80.10. Okay, that would be the previous high there. Or I would say like if you're buying it, that will be your target. Back to the lower time frame, like 4-hour time frame, we do see this V-shaped formation, and then right now, of course, it seems like it's doing its correction. Again, two key zones here you want to keep an eye on. Okay, one of course is this low where price can easily just come back down. Very high chance it will do that. But the question is more like, will it bounce from here, or will this just keep going down all the way and then form a mini double bottom before the bounce? Okay, so for me, I'm not too keen in selling the Kiwi yen. When I'm looking at this pair, the direction is pretty clear to me. I'll be focusing on the upside, right? Okay, the question is just like, where do I get involved in the buy? Okay, is it gonna be somewhere around 76.10? Okay, or is it gonna be like at the previous double bottom area, which is somewhere around 75.60, right? So these are the two zones that I will be keeping a very close watch. Again, there are multiple ways to get involved in, right? You either look at candlestick formation for confirmation. You can look for price pattern. You can look for indicators to assist you. Anything that works, right? That's why I say you need to have your personalized strategy to know how to execute the trade, where to put your stop and things like that. Okay, but for me, if you're looking at Kiwi yen, okay, then I would suggest you want to maybe focus on the upside. That will be a bit more attractive, right? The room to the upside is looking more attractive than the sell side of things. Cat yen is basically pretty similar to Kiwi yen. Okay, daily wise, you can see, right, very, very straightforward. Basically, it's the double bottom formation on the daily, and therefore we also see a nice rejection. We are expecting this to continue up back to the previous high, about 91 trend T. All right, 4-hour time frame, it's slightly different from Kiwi yen. Okay, Kiwi yen, you do see, if I go back to it, right, Kiwi yen, you do see that this is coming down, right, slanting to the downside, so something like this. Okay. CAD yen is of a slightly different pattern. Okay, so this is where you can see again V shape, and this seems to be doing we call this an expanding flat, right? In terms of Elliott wave, this is the pattern that potentially can develop called an expanding flat. And this is how it looks like, right? It's gonna probably be something like that, and then it go. Okay, so this zone becomes the key area that you want to keep an eye on, right? You do not want to buy now, okay, because this would likely just continue to come down. Maybe somewhere around 87.10 is the zone for you to keep an eye on, okay, which is somewhere near this previous low, right? Somewhere around there, 87.10. Okay. Same thing over here. I would say, based on how things are going to develop, if this is really coming down and then start to see some kind of small rejection to the upside, something like that will give you a decent setup to buy it to the upside, right? For me, the direction, the probability to the upside is still higher than selling it. Okay, so that's one pair you want to put it into your watch list as well if you're trading, the yen pairs. Okay, another one is Chef Yen, right? So you can see over here, Chef Yen, this is slightly different. Okay, so Kiwi Yen, Cat Yen, we're looking to buy. Chef Yen over here, we are looking to sell it. Okay, which is slightly different, right, in terms of the direction. But I always say, you analyze the chart independently, right? So you might get confused a little bit, like, but the yen, we are looking to sell it, right? Because you buy Kiwi yen, you buy Cat yen, you're looking to sell the yen. But how come Chef yen, you're looking to sell this pair and therefore buy the yen? How does it play out? I always say, when you look at currency pair, okay, at the start when you're doing your analysis, look at them independently, okay? Because you have a pair inside it, which means yen can move similarly, CHF can move, and you would not know exactly which one will be the main catalyst, which one will be the main driver for that move, right? So you always analyze the chart independently, right? So in this case here, when we look at CHF, JPY as an independent chart, you do see this pattern here where you get an impulse, then a correction, which again, this suggests that we're looking for the downside. Okay, primary target over here, you can see we have like 118.65, and the second here is 115.85, which is daily previous low. Okay, so even if, let's say, we don't aim all the way down, we just aim at this previous low, I think you can see from this scale, okay, the opportunity is there. Okay, 4-hour time frame, okay, what I like about it, you can see is this is very, very obvious. Okay, this is what we call a crawl pattern, and it basically suggests there's a lack of momentum, right? So every time you see a pattern like that, again, it suggests that you do not want to focus on the buy, you rather look for the reversal. Okay, these are what we call crawl pattern, right? So this as a whole is also a potential crawl, and then you get a smaller one here, right? So it comes in variations of sizes, but the principle, the pattern, how it looks like, more or less similar. Okay, so I would suggest that if you're looking at CHF JPY, right, Swiss yen, focus on the downside. I think the probability is definitely higher. Okay, but of course you need to figure out what will be your execution method, right? Would it be the breakout? Would it be the wait of the first push first as a confirmation, and then you wait for the correction, and then you enter on this? Really up to you, right? Some of you might wait for the push and then maybe put in the fib, wait for the 618 retracement before taking a short at the retracement. Okay, there are many ways, as I always say, to execute a trade, but at the end of the day, you need to be comfortable with that method, right? The method needs to be aligned with your style, with your personality, right? Because some traders are a little bit more conservative, right? They would like to wait for like confirmation. Some traders are a little bit more aggressive. They would like to kind of like be involved in that trade when it first played out, okay? And that's how it is, right? Different stuff. Okay, but Swiss yen over here, definitely pay very close attention to that, right? Good chance that it's gonna move. Pound New Zealand is another pair. I have it in my weekly watch list as of now. So in terms of daily, what we see over here is very, very kind of like obvious on the daily scale, on the big picture. Okay, this is very corrective in nature. This is fast, right? You can see this is fast, this is fast. This entire move up takes like super long. Okay, almost since end of last year. That's a good 8 months. Okay, so the idea is, again, you see this pattern here. It suggests that the downside is higher probability, and definitely a little bit more attractive, right, in terms of the room for it to push lower. So back down to the lower time frame, if you're looking at patterns over here, you can see we do have like double top, and then if you consider this more like a fake break, and then it breaks below it, and right now it's doing below this region. You can even call it like a triple top, okay, but a triple top with a fake break. Okay, so same thing over here. If I zoom in a little bit to look at this, you get this impulse and a correction. You expect this to just keep going lower. Okay, so pound kiwi is definitely in my watch list. Even if you go down to the 1 hour time frame, you can start to see maybe not the nicest head and shoulder pattern, but still something similar like that, right? Or you look at this pattern here as an impulse and a correction, same thing. You're expecting more downside. Okay, so pound New Zealand, definitely you want to keep an eye on that. Pound odd actually made that mini first dip. Okay, but I would say between pound odd and pound New Zealand, I would focus a little bit more on pound New Zealand, right? That would look thinner. Okay, it's clearer in the setup. The other pair over here, I think that's the last FX pair for me. Okay, it's Aussie New Zealand. So same thing. If you look at the daily time frame, right, we are back at previous daily low. So we are seeing kind of like price has already kind of broke it, but did not break it very strongly. So very slow, lack of momentum, again suggesting a reversal to the upside. Okay, so Aussie New Zealand, if you were to look for the direction and the primary target here, it will be somewhere around 1.0810, right? The upside. For our time frame, you can see again this is a very slow pattern. There's no momentum. If you bring in RSI, you would see that divergence as well. Okay, so again, it suggests upside. So you need to have again your execution method. Okay, so whether you're gonna wait for this to push higher, give you a correction, you take that trade to the upside, maybe a breakout or a retracement. Okay, you need to have that execution method. Okay, or even if let's say this can maybe make a mini bounce back, double bottom here for the bounce, that's also a possible setup, right? Okay, so the direction is pretty clear to me. I would not sell until proven otherwise. Now the pattern that's developing is super clear. Focus on the upside, right? That's my view on Aussie Kiwi. Okay, so that's on the FX side of things. Those are the few pairs as of today. It's pretty clear in the direction to focus on. In terms of commodities, gold seems to be doing this kind of pattern here, which is, it came very close to that, kind of like rejected that, and it's coming down. Okay, so looking at this here, there's a good chance if I were to kind of like clean this up a little bit, right? Okay, there's a good chance this is probably developing into maybe what we call a regular flat. In terms of Elliott Wave, it's basically looking something like that, right? If I would just hit this, something like that, sideways move. Okay, so this is, if I do a little bit of labeling, it's probably gonna be something like that. Okay, so you would then expect, if I bring this out, okay, I'll just put this horizontal line here. You'll be expecting gold to perhaps come down a little bit more, and this zone here will be crucial to see if this bounce, right? Same thing, if you're looking at gold, because this is XAU against US dollar, Friday NFP will be pretty crucial, okay? Because that would determine the strength of the dollar, probably provide some catalyst, and this can really affect the dollar chart as well. Okay, so for me, you want to keep an eye on 1789. Okay, depending on how price react. If let's say this comes down here very slow, then I think there's a good chance this would probably reverse and continue to the upside. Okay, however, if let's say this were to develop into something like that, then there will be a good chance we might see this drop first, and then same thing, you want to observe how it react at 1789. Okay, yeah, for me, I would avoid shorting gold. Okay, unless you are doing like very short term trade, more towards something like intraday. okay, then you're fine, right? You can do anything you want on the intraday because you don't really look at the big picture, because intraday you ride a little bit, you get out, that's it, right? Then you come back another day to look at the movement. But for me, when I'm looking at commodities, I'm looking at it for a much longer perspective. Okay, so for me, like when I look at gold, I'm looking more of like a potential inflation hedge asset, right? So I'm actually entering gold not to trade, but to ride it for the long run. Okay, and I think I've shared this a couple of times. Also, if today we just go back to what happened in the last financial crisis, where the Fed went into QE and print a lot of money. Okay, that was back in 2008, right? Okay, and you can see over here since then in 2009, late 2008, 2009, that's where gold actually did a massive rally of 180% to the upside within 2 years. Okay, the peak here is somewhere around August 2011, so about 2 years. Now if I were to kind of like expect the similar thing to happen again, because last year the Fed actually print again a lot of money. Okay, so if something similar happened, then we do a very simple of like extrapolation, or you can say forecast, where if let's say we take the recent low and we project it 180% to the upside, it will give us a price point of 3,000. Okay, so whether is it gonna go there, we won't know for sure, but I'm basing this trade, or I would say even this long term trade here, more towards the part where I'm looking for it as hedge, right, or an inflationary hedge. Okay, so have that in mind, okay, because if today you are looking at short term, then you might want to play this out very differently. So for me, I only focus on the upside on gold because of that reason. Okay, so have that in mind when I focus, when I say I focus on the buy side, it's really because of that. Okay, so short term, can you sell? Yeah, right. If you find a decent valid setup to sell it, by all means. Okay, that's my view on gold. Now stock market wise, I would say likely it hinges on the NFP as well. Okay, because again, the Fed decision making process, the monetary policy is going to affect equities market, right? When tightening were to start and take place, then equities market are likely going to see that dip. Okay, whether is it going to be a crash, you need to see how fast the Fed is going to do its tightening process, right? If suddenly the Fed announce we're going to totally stop asset purchase program, right now they are doing 120 billion per month. So if they suddenly have a huge, massive tightening process and say that, oh, next month we're not going to purchase anything, from 120 reduced to 0, that is huge, right? And if they, add it up and say that, guys, we are going to increase interest rate starting 2022, I can I can assure you, if that were to happen, the market is going to crash. Okay? But of course, it's not in the Fed's interest to crash the market, so I don't think they're gonna do something like that. They'll always give you sufficient, not you, but give the market sufficient prep, sufficient information to digest it slowly. Okay, because the Fed wouldn't want the market to crash also. Okay, but having said that, when they start increasing interest rate, naturally you would see the market correct. Okay, that's common. Okay, because we talk about liquidity and things like that. Yeah, when it's tightening, money will flow out of equities, because there's a lack of cash flow, money flow going around, right? So for me, equities market, very likely we're gonna see more or less a consolidation until Friday. Okay, and I would say if you're looking at S&P or general index, you probably want to wait until NFP as well, because from now until then you're probably gonna see more of a consolidation. Okay, so that's my view on that. But overall, I would say until the Fed updates its monetary policy, okay, update meaning basically they start to really do tightening. I'm bullish on the general equities market, right? Because the liquidity is still there as long as they continue to do asset purchases. They're increasing money supply. The stock market is going to be supported. Okay, so to me, as long as that is continued, the market will continue to hit all-time high. Okay, but that's for the US, right? If you look at China, it's a totally different story. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't suggest you go and touch this. If you really want to get some exposure in, close to Chinese market, I would say Hong Kong would be slightly better option. Personally, I would like to gain some exposure in the Asia market. Okay, and for me, Asia market that you want to focus is really Hong Kong and Nikkei. These are the only two that I would suggest, right? Honestly, forget about Malaysia, forget about Singapore, forget about China. Okay, if you're in Philippines, I think Philippines is a very vibrant market, but if you're talking about more developed, I would then suggest to focus on Hong Kong and Nikkei. I think this two has more potential as compared to the rest. Okay, so recently China is like very hot, right? The news is floating around like crackdown and things like that, and then China market actually tumbles like 25%. Hong Kong wasn't was affected too, right? So Hong Kong wasn't spared. But if you're looking for buying the dip, or you would say like buying at the discount, then you can refer to Hang Seng. Okay, I would say it depending on how you look at it, right? I wouldn't be too aggressive in getting in. I would rather be patient. I don't need to rush in because most of my opportunities, I would say, still come from the US. But if I'm looking to have like balance out my exposure of my portfolio, I would like to have some Asia exposure in my equities portfolio. Then Hong Kong or Nikkei will be them, right? So right now, on the technical point of view, 4-hour time frame, you do see this V shape. And it's definitely doing its correction right now. Okay, so there's a good chance this can continue higher after that. Maybe one more dip, and then from there it can go higher. Okay, yeah. So I would say you want to start paying close attention to Hang Seng if it fits into your investment profile. Okay, that you're looking to get some exposure in Asia, maybe slightly closer to Hong Kong, to China, then focus on Hong Kong. Okay, I would say Nikkei is another one that you potentially can keep a close watch with. So you can see the chart is also super clear. This is on the daily. It's doing its consolidation. Then usually when you see a pattern like that, there's a good chance this will continue to the upside. Okay, so that's the reason why I say Nikkei and Hong Kong is a better opportunity. Okay, yeah. In terms of Asia, that's the two market you want to focus. Okay, so that's on equity side of things. Crypto, okay, last week we mentioned, be very, very cautious of the 41,000. Okay, so you see what happened right now, so we can talk about it. Okay, don't buy Bitcoin now, right? I know last week get some positive sentiment from Bitcoin, right? Elon Musk, again, Katie Wood, and of course you have also I saw one of our traders posted and shared an article talking about how, if I'm not mistaken, funds in Germany, if I recall correctly, are now allowed to expose their portfolio up to 20% in crypto side, right? So that's actually a positive thing because that generates, I would say, that provides room for demand on them. Okay, and that's a positive sentiment. However, the technical charts is a little bit different. Okay, you do see how it's going towards 41, so there's a good chance it might come back down and do a retracement first. Then maybe from there it's gonna bounce, or okay, depending on how the market is gonna develop. Okay, it can still come back all the way towards maybe about 28,000 plus. Okay, so in any case, I would suggest that if you're looking to buy, you can use a simple fib here. At least wait for the 50% retracement. Okay, somewhere around $35,500. Okay. So if you're looking to buy, at least be patient. Wait for something like that to come down somewhere here. I think it will be much better price for you to accumulate Bitcoin. Okay. In terms of Ethereum, it's still going up. Okay, Ethereum has some room left. But if you ask me, if Bitcoin were to drop, there's a good chance Ethereum will follow suit. Okay, which means that while Bitcoin is dropping, maybe Ethereum will do its consolidation like that. Okay, and if done, then of course when Bitcoin rally, this can go back up towards 29,000. Okay, so I would say for now, don't touch Bitcoin and Ethereum for the short term, at least for this week. Okay, give it this week, let it develop to a correction pattern first, and then from there maybe that is a much better time for you to get involved in that. Yeah, so hope it's clear in terms of what I have prepared share so far in my watch list for now. Okay, so great. So let's see if there's any questions that you guys have, right? Just put it up into chat, and then from there, okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, good. Okay, so I see some of you are asking about few of the analysis of different currencies, and some are indices, right? So let's talk about some of them that I see you guys requested. Okay, first up over here I see is pound yen. Okay, pound yen, I would say now my view is this, right? So you can see this pattern here. I think on some of the charts you actually saw it. We call this a crawl, right? But the kind of like technical term is a diagonal, and most of the time when you see something like that, you do expect a move down, right? Either a total reversal, or at least do not want to buy it. Okay? So for me right now, I think there are two things you want to really pay attention to on yen. Okay, one is that if it goes gonna do something like that, then you will continue to see this upside. Okay, let me show you the daily. Maybe that would be still giving you some ideas, right? So in terms of daily, you can see like again a very solid V-shaped bounce. Okay, so momentum is definitely to the upside for now. Final target is somewhere around 156. However, short term wise here, this is probably going to develop something like that. This will be a gentler correction. Okay, you will look for an upside if that happens, but for this to develop, you probably need to give it time, right? Maybe the entire of this week is going to take up to develop this pattern. The other one is this can of course come down pretty fast, something like that. And if that happens, you want to keep track of 150.75, right? Because from there, this can then start to bounce back up and higher. Okay, so I would say for pound yen, for me this week, it's more of like a patient game. Okay, you want to give time the market to develop into something that's clearer first. Okay. Yeah, so that's my view. So in short, this has two high possibility of developing. One is sideways. If this happens like that, take the buy, but likely you probably need to wait until next week. The other is from here, it gives you an impulse, and then this forms a small little crawl that looks like that. Then this can continue down. Okay, then maybe if you're looking at short-term trade, you can look for the sell here. Yeah, so that's on yen. Okay, yeah, I see one of you are asking about US 30, which is Dow Jones, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely look for the short-term move to the downside, right? Because we kind of see topping formation over here. Momentum to break out is not that high. There's a good chance this can come down. But again, this is gonna be tricky, right? Because as I shared just now, the macro is supportive of equities market to the upside. So you can expect it to continue breaking highs. Okay, but market is never gonna move one direction all the time. So the idea is more like this can even develop into something like that. So you break the high, comes back and do a little bit of correction, and then continue up as well. Okay, so if you're asking, can you look for the sell? Definitely, if you're looking at this pattern here, you can of course capitalize on this move down here as it's correcting. But you need to be a little bit more active in managing that trade, right? Because this can then easily rotate back up based on the macro big picture. Okay, and if you're looking at equities, definitely you want to keep an eye on Friday's NFP. That's gonna move the market, right? Of course, if let's say the NFP comes out muted, no, okay, I feel it's this, right? It's always tricky to project, what's going to happen when the news. But my hunch for today right now, okay, my hunch is that if the data comes out is not too positive, okay, which means not very, very good, then basically what the Fed has been pushing is right, okay, and it means that probably people will start to think, oh yeah, the Fed is correct and inflation is transitory, and it's the right call for them to not do tapering first, right? And if that happens, general equity markets are gonna probably strengthen, because of the continue of QE, the influx of money, right? Yeah, that's my hunch. I'm not saying that is exactly 100% gonna happen like that, but good chance that might be the sentiment, right? If let's say the data coming in is very, very good, then people might be starting to like expect the Fed to maybe push forward their tapering process, and that would then market maybe sell off. Okay, so that's my view. Of course, don't just take it blindly like that. Okay, it's just another perspective, right? And always important to have your own decision making process in trading, investing, right? And my role here is to just provide you an alternative food for thought, right? If you put it that way. Yeah, so hope that helps. Good. Yeah, I see one of you are asking about euro dollar. Okay, for me, euro dollar on a daily scale, and 4-hour scale, I'm looking at the upside, but this week is not that clear. Okay, I would say right now, again, there's NFP, right? So likely this is just gonna be consolidation, all the way, and then if that happens, there's a good chance this will pop. Okay, so if you're looking at euro dollar, right, it's pretty much similar to DXY, just the opposite of it, right? Yeah, chart looks more or less similar as well. That means you flip it, you flip the DXY chart, you mirror it, basically gives you euro dollar. Yeah. I see another question over here. Is NFP updated every Friday? No, right? NFP is only once a month, the first Friday of the month. Sometimes you might realize that because of the dates, the calendar, might happen like technically second week of the month. Okay, but very, very seldom. Okay, most of the time you can just have that in mind is that NFP happens first Friday of the month. Okay. Helps. Yeah, I see here. XAG seems like a flag. Let's look at that. Yeah, you can say that that's a flag. Okay. Hey, silver is not like the clearest setup right now. Yeah, but I mean, okay, technically this, I mean, I know what you're seeing. This is the 4-hour flag you probably are looking at. Okay, you have a pretty good probability to the upside. This is definitely a divergence there, a double bottom, and you get your first push, you get a flag. This flag is actually above the neckline, which is great. One little thing to consider is probably this here. Okay, you haven't really break through that, but that's to me not that significant, right? I mean, that's like a little bit of a deduction if you give it points, right? You have like double bottom, break of the neckline, consolidation at the top. All this add points to the upside. Okay, but this one here have minus a little bit of points. Okay, if you put it that way. Yeah, I mean, this is a good trade to the upside. The only thing that I was hesitant just now was really on the daily time frame, right? Because you can see from a daily side of things, the momentum is still down, right? And we haven't really come back to this low here yet. Usually, there's a good chance, price likes to come back before it goes. But not 100% of the time. Most of the time, it does that. Okay. So that's where I'm a little bit hesitant, right? Which means this can easily just do something like that and then, you know, just come back down before that pop, right? And then this develop into something like this, okay? So yeah, that's the only part that I'm a little bit hesitant, but I think it's, you know, it's really up to you whether you would take this as a risk worth taking, right? As I always say in trading, it's all about the decision making process of asking yourself, if I take this, the worst case is I probably get a stop out trade. Maybe you want to then assess, you know, is this risk worth that potential trade up? Okay, if it fits into your style, you know, it fits into your profile, you're okay with it, then by all means, right? It's never about certainty. Okay, I always say this in trading and investing. If you're always waiting for the 100% guaranteed for sure kind of trade, you never get it. Okay, so as long as you know you have an edge over the market, okay, for the long run, then just maximize on the edge, right? That's all about trading. Okay, hope that helps, huh? Okay, great. Okay, so I see here Randy asking, can sell Bitcoin, right? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at selling it for the short term, I think it's a good chance to focus on the sell. I don't sell crypto, okay? For me, commodities and crypto, for me, I'm generally just bullish. I'm only looking for buy opportunity, right? But if you are, of course, doing short term trade, yeah, I think Bitcoin right now looks pretty interesting for a sell. Yeah. Um, yeah, right. So good. I see here someone asking about Aussie franc. Hey, I would say Aussie franc is definitely not a pair you want to focus right now. Okay, if I were to clean up my entire analysis right now, okay, the momentum on the daily is definitely down, right? Um, but you want to also look at it from a perspective, it has already dropped quite deep. At some point in time, it will do a deeper correction, right? Or we call it a bigger correction. Okay. So that's something you want to have it in mind. From a forward time frame perspective, it's not clear, right? Because this can here do, you know, something similar like that or something similar like that, okay, which means it's basically a correction and then just keep continue falling, possible. Um, at this moment here, this can also do we call V shape, and then from there it goes up, possible. So you need time, right? You need really to see how price is going to develop. Is it going to be a correction or is it going to be an impulse correction? Um, right now, not enough data for me to really share um, which direction you want to focus on. Okay, so usually in such instances, we just stay away, right? Give time the market to develop, then come back maybe next week. Yeah, good. Um, hey, I see a question here asking, what are some of the shares that I'm buying and selling? Yeah, for that, I think you can directly refer to my portfolio on eToro, right? It's basically public. For those of you who are keen, okay, just go over to eToro, go to my portfolio. You'll be able to see everything I'm holding on, and when I exit, you see that trade out as well, right? So it's a very transparent side of my portfolio, right? And that one I think you can directly look at it. Um, Another question here is about crude oil. Okay, for my opinion, it can't break 77. It may drop to 61. Let's take a look at crude oil. Um, Great. Okay, first off, over here, 71. Oh, sorry, 61 is pretty down. Yeah, somewhere here. It's very difficult to say whether it will go down to 61, which is this level here, right? It's quite a big diff. But I would say it's definitely losing momentum right now. Okay, you can see this one here. Okay, it's definitely losing momentum to the upside, which means that if today you're looking to buy oil, now is not a good time, right? If today you're looking to sell oil, there is this good chance that you can sell it at least, if you're very conservative, then put your target somewhere here around $70. Okay, I think there's a good chance it will come down. The question is more of like, will it come down very, very slow as a corrective pattern? Okay, if that happens, then this would likely just continue back up towards 77. If this is coming down very slow. However, if let's say from here it just decides to break very strong, do a mini correction here, and this probably can continue down. Okay, so a very conservative level is somewhere around $70, somewhere there. If you are looking to sell, then you might want to then put your primary target here, and if let's say it managed to break through, you might just want to profit take a little bit, take partial profits, and then ride it. So that's my view on oil. Okay. Yeah, hope that helps, right? Whether is it gonna go to 61, I think there are a few key levels you want to look up for first, right? Just now I mentioned about $70. The other one you can see over here is 66. Okay, it probably need to really break through all this, show signs that it won't continue down, before it can eventually hit 61. Okay. But also bear in mind that we are right now, I would say like this year, energy sector, which means like oil is one of them. Okay, it's probably going to be supported to the upside. Okay, so bear that in mind as well, because in terms of like sector rotation, this current economic cycle, with inflation, the pressure of inflation, your commodities, your energy sector are gonna see some bullish to the upside. Okay, bullishness to the upside. So that's the big picture perspective if you're looking at oil. Yeah. Great. So I see over here, question on pound Australia. Yeah, just now we briefly touched on it. I mentioned that it's not a very good pair to really focus too much on. You need to give it a little bit more time right now. It's what I call in a limbo state. It's like you go out in you went sailing, and then you get lost somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Okay, and you're trying to figure out the direction, which side to go. Okay, that scenario is how I would describe pound Aussie right now. Okay, call it no man's land. Okay, why? Because look at where price is. Look at all the previous structures that we have. There's nothing there. Okay, and I always say, right, when price already makes such a big move, there's a good chance it will develop a correction. Okay, so you need to give it time to do that, right? So for me right now, I would just say, maybe if you can, just leave this aside for this week. Okay, come back next week and see how it develops. Okay, there's a good chance this would still be something like that, where it can come down. But again, I would say you can catch this, but there are better pairs out there. Okay, I'll put it that way, right? There are some easier opportunities compared to this. So that's where I don't try to squeeze something out, if I can find something nicer, right? Yeah, that's my opinion and view on pound opera. Okay, so I see here Malaysia going to ban Binance. I saw that as well. Be honest, my crypto portfolio is in Binance. Of course, my immediate reaction back then when I saw that article is I wrote into Binance support to literally ask them, straight up, with this news released by Malaysia SC, what's next, right? What do I need to take note of as a client from Malaysia? They told me that for now, okay, of course, they are not getting out yet, right? I mean, it's one thing for SC to release a statement. It's also another thing whether Binance wants to follow suit. Okay, I mean, of course, there is little, there is really very little that SC can really do, right? What can they do? They at most put up a firewall, ban the website. That's about it, right? And with today's technology, of course, the way out is just have a VPN, and you probably would have solved that firewall thing. The other aspect, of course, the more serious one that you might want to be maybe taking a little bit more focus on it, is that maybe they will ban any transaction, okay, from Binance to maybe your local account, local bank account, and things like that. But again, with today's technology, we are talking about crypto, right? So if that really happens, then what you do is, you probably then just need to transfer whatever crypto you have in Binance to maybe another exchange where it's not blocked, and withdraw it. Okay, so I would say it's not too big of a concern, but you still want to follow suit, right? So the representative from Binance actually just told me that they will keep the clients updated whenever there is a decision that they make. Okay, so for now it's just as usual, right? Nothing has changed. Okay, so hopefully that helps, right? Okay, I mean, I can't really answer you for sure what's gonna happen as well, but this is what I did, and that's the reply that I got. Hey, I see over here a question asking, do most of your trading principles and approach based on Elliott Wave? Yeah, right. I mean, in terms of technical analysis right now, I would say 90% is based on Elliott Wave. I do a little bit of fit and divergence side of things as well, right? Actually, Elliott Wave Principles does that as well. Okay, so yeah, okay. But in terms of technical analysis, in my years of trading, I've come across and I've also explored a lot of different methods. Okay, so some of that revolves around indicators, some of that revolves around Fibonacci a lot. Harmonic patterns. Um, I do. I would say I'm quite familiar with this, right? All these different types of indicators and different methods. But at the end of the day, there is no like which one is better. But for me, as of now, Elliott Wave is the one that I find suit me the most, right? So yeah, you probably realize that what we are talking about, since just now a lot of them are based on Elliott Wave principle. Okay, great. Okay, so see over here, pound franc. Pound franc is also a pair that you want to be very cautious. Likely it's just gonna be just consolidating, right? From a daily time frame, it looks like this can come back up. But first you probably need to do this, come back to this low, and then go back to that high. So this week here, probably you're not gonna see a lot of move. Maybe Thursday BOE statement might push the pound lower, so maybe something like that. And right on this catalyst down with this low here around 1.25. Okay, but that's a very very short term move, right? You can see that. So that to me, I won't be focusing on such tiny room. Okay, but it's still a decent trade if you are interested in it. Okay, so pound franc, I would say, want to potentially ride to the downside with the catalyst coming from BOE. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I see another question on stock side. What's my take on AMAT and TSM? Both are pretty solid companies fundamentally. Okay, so definitely if you're looking at long-term investment, AMAT and TSM, they are solid companies for you to consider in investing. Okay, but of course, you need to always do your due diligence, right? A solid company does not mean it fits into your portfolio. Okay, um, so if you take a look at, like, let's say TSM over here, you might want to then couple with a little bit of technical to help you in finding maybe entry zones. Okay, so in this case, okay, I will update this chart a little bit. It's probably gonna be something like that. Okay, where there might be a good chance, if I were to down, there will be a good chance that TSM can do another leg lower towards 107 before the push, right? So kind of like, take a look at it, a triple bottom. Okay. So that's something that you can consider from a technical point of view. Okay, but from fundamental, TSM is a very very solid company. Yeah, good. Okay, so I think that's all that I see. Okay, good. That's all. Okay. So hope today's session helps. Again, if you benefited from this session, okay, do feel free to share it with friends who are trading investing. Okay, we do this. I think those of you who have been joining us for some time, right? We do this every Monday, and then on Thursday we're gonna do it in Chinese, right? But the format is more or less the same. So yep, right. Hope you guys benefited from today's sharing session. Okay, if you do, just feel free to share it with your friends. Get them to join in. Hopefully we can reach out to more people. Okay, and just share my journey, my experience, what I know with trading investing. So that's all. All the best for the week, and for those of you who are joining in on Thursday, we'll see you on Thursday. If not, then we'll see you guys next Monday, right? Okay, see you. Bye bye.